Zach.
What is going on today, guys? So today we are getting started on getting swapped in this hot 302 that we built for the convertible Foxbody Mustang. Kind of ignore some of the stuff in the background, trying to get some stuff cleaned up. But if you're just joining us, this is kind of a hot little combo we put together. So the block is a 91 roller block, okay? Pistons are all good. Inspected the whole bottom end, all that fun stuff. We went with the SVE 170cc heads. These are gonna bump compression up, probably gonna have to run premium in this thing. Not a big deal. We have a Ford B303 camshaft. We have from like an Explorer or the Mercury, I think it was Mountaineer, GT40 intake with a 1-inch spacer. We also went with a BBK 75mm throttle body, as well as the matching, I don't even know what this is really called. It's not a spacer, but you know, more or less it controls all like the vacuum, as well as the EGR plate as well. So that's what we've got underneath the valve covers. These are just some cheapy ones that actually came on the motor. We've got Comp 1.6 roller tipped rockers, as well as hardened push rods. Everything's all adjusted, everything's all good to go from that standpoint. We got a nice Ford, a legitimate Motorcraft water pump on there, and then just a knockoff timing cover to kind of wrap everything all up. Stock harmonic balancer. This is a Bullet water pump pulley, just because it came with the motor. So it will be replacing this. This is our stock 86 302 motor. So why we need to change this out? These have flat top pistons that if I ran those heads, it would contact the pistons. I didn't feel like reworking this whole thing on there when I had that motor pretty much for free anyways, so it wasn't a big deal. On top of that, this motor burns a little bit of oil. It smokes a little bit, more than likely out of the valve stem seals. These are what's referred to as an E6 head. Okay, so quick little aside on these. 86 is the only year of this combination, to my understanding, where it is a roller lower end motor versus a flat tap. Flat tap it, we're talking about the lifters. Okay, it's got like an okay camshaft. It should have just like a stock cam in it that would be used from 86 all the way up to 93. The pistons though are the older design, so from my understanding they should go backwards to 79, I believe, but don't quote me on that. It does have the 86 to 93 upper intake. What's a little different about specifically the 86 is the throttle body and again this EGR plate are only 56 millimeter. We are stepping up all the way to 75 millimeters, so this is going to be a huge improvement overall. But essentially I was having issues where this was kind of burning a little bit of oil, wanted to service them, found out these E6 swirl port heads are kind of junk. I ended up buying these bad boys right here, these E7 heads, which are much more typical of like the 86 to 93 Foxbodies. We had a bad valve spring, and that's how we ended up buying these heads right here. LMR does a good deal on them. They're about $1,000 for both heads. Come with the valve springs, come with everything. They're a much bigger intake and exhaust valve. So the intake valve, from memory, I'm going to tell you the E7s are about a 1.7, maybe 1.78 is what it was, and exhausts are 1.46. On this motor, intakes are 202 and exhausts are 1.6. So we're talking like a 20 to 30% massive improvement in airflow. Couple that with this GT40 intake, which again is another massive improvement in airflow. This thing is going to be an absolute screamer. Looking at the combination that I have here, don't quote me on this, Ford used to sell a crate motor with GT40 heads, which these should technically be better than, okay? GT40 intake, I think it had a B303 cam, maybe it had an E303 cam, and it made like 340 horsepower. So that would be cool if we're going to be in that ballpark. I would say anything north of 300 horsepower is probably going to be where I'm going to be really happy. The T5 in this thing is actually the rebuilt unit out of the 94 that I scrapped, where I moved over like the top plate and I moved over a couple of pieces that made it work in this Foxbody. So that's already all been done. And really it's going to wake this car up. I do need to convert the car from speed density to mass airflow. It's going to make it run better. Apparently it doesn't really want to run correctly with the camshaft as well as the head. So since we're making everything a little bit more spicy, we're going to get swapped over. As well as we're going to go to an A9L computer from whatever speed density computer is in this one. I don't know off the top of my head. But we're gonna go ahead and get started on getting everything swapped over. So I need to pull the transmission out. I already removed the hood to gain access, and then I am going to slowly work my way around this motor to see basically what I can transfer at what point in time and get everything going. So we are going to reuse the fuel rails off this, as well as we are going to reuse the distributor. I do have a set of 24-pound injectors coming. This motor is going to make more than the 270 or so horse that 19-pounders, like what would have came stock on this, are rated for, so we're just going to get that moved over. Additionally, all of this front dress I'm going to move over. I do have a 3G alternator off of the 94 95 Mustangs that I am going to swap in. I have not looked into how to do that yet, but that's probably the only thing that's not going to be reused off this front dress here to get everything kind of moved over and starting to get worked on. So we're gonna get cooking and get everything all cleaned up, and yeah. What is going on today, guys? So like I said, new dress because it's a new day. We've been working on getting the motor out of the Foxbody. So we've been making a bunch of progress. As you can see, it's missing a bunch of the front dress because we've been transferring it over. We've been painting it as we go. We got some paint on some items right over there. That's all kind of coming together. I did also get the transmission out, as well as all the bell housing and flywheel and the cross member, so right there. So this kind of works out that we're doing the swap on this, because I'm going to actually end up swapping out the input shaft bearing retainer, which is this piece, just because it's got some marks, it's got some notching, and then if you can see right there, I'll move out of the way a little bit. Right there. Okay. So as you can see, it's not exactly super shiny. I'm concerned that it's going to start to bind. But also, what we have one other thing to do. We need to change out the roller pilot bearing. So this is the Ford Performance one right there, coming into piece. And we need to swap out the one that is in the back of this motor, because I have no idea what it is or if it's ever been changed, and I'm not going to put together a brand new motor with a brand new clutch and a brand new flywheel if I'm not going to change out the pilot bearing. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my tools. What you need is a bolt and some bread. Okay, the make doesn't really matter on that. What you end up doing is you end up just stuffing that full of bread right there. Then you take your bolt, okay, and you pound it in. When you're pounding that in, I also did electrical tape it a little bit to kind of eat up a little bit of the clearance. But what this is going to allow it to do is it's going to allow the bread to go into the hole, and it's going to start pushing on the back of the bearing. Now this can take some sizable force and some sizable action, so you might have to go back through this a couple times. I'm probably going to actually redo my tape job because it's actually just a little bit too tight. You really want this to be able to slip through, but not really any bread to get out around it. So I'm going to redo that, and then you guys get to see it in action. Okay, so I ended up getting a slightly longer bolt. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start to fill our bearing surface up with bread. I originally tried grease and it did not work, so now I'm going to have a greasy, bready mess, which is always fun. But, see, just kind of tear it apart and shove it in there. Okay, we're starting to get some traction. Okay, and you take your bolt. Let's see. Okay. Okay. So basically we just keep doing this until it starts to pop that bearing out. So very good chance you will hit this a lot. Put a lot of bread in there. Here we go. It's starting to get a little bit better. Get a better angle. And as you can see, it is starting to come out. Let's see. Boom! Success! It is that easy to pull this out, and then all of this will come right out with a little pick. Look at that. There you go. It is that simple. So this goes without saying, make sure to clean up all of this out of there before you put your new bearing in, but it is that simple. Okay, so now we have the flywheel, the clutch plate back on the new motor, as well as the sandwich plate. That's very important on Fords. So now we're gonna get into, we need to yank this motor out, okay? At the time, because I'm conveniently forgetting about it, we are going to do the brake booster. So more than likely, unfortunately, the nice new motor isn't going to end up in there tonight, even though I would like it to. I still need to get like a couple of small things, get some hoses and stuff like that. So not the end of the world, but I do want to pull this motor out tonight because I want this one to be out and done. That way I can kind of slow walk and get everything I need to in, because once I get that brake booster in and the new master, well, then we're going to be able to go ahead and just slam that motor in and it's not going to be a big deal, but I wanted to make sure I had enough room to do it. So that's going to be what I'm going to be working on now. I need to pull off the upper intake. That's going to give me access to all the vacuum stuff. Sorry, I'll put it in frame right there. That's going to give me access to all the vacuum stuff that needs to be adjusted. And then once we get all that disconnected, gotta disconnect some fuel lines, disconnect some motor mounts, and then this thing's out. So let's get this thing pulled. Okay, so after a long day, motor is out. It's actually over there, right there on the stand. So, looking good. This thing just does not want to stop peeing out coolant. Jeez, is that annoying. We've got the new motor over here on this stand. I've got the clutch and flywheel all hooked up right on there to just kind of get that all taken care of. We got all the accessories kind of laid out, as well as like the cross member and whatnot, all the fun stuff there. Finally got those brackets painted, changing out the power steering pump because it is loud and annoying. So we have got a lot of work done today. So we've also installed the new Maximum Motorsports right there drive shaft, or I'm sorry, steering shaft. So because the stock one will not fit with this AJE K member. I don't know if it's how I have it positioned, but I don't think so because I had to loosen it up once, never got it connected. So we just replaced it. We've also replaced the bearing retainer right there. So they make an updated one where it's that steel, it's the black part, rather than aluminum, because the aluminum ones like to pit and they start to get caught up, and that causes a bunch of issues. We do have the vacuum more or less figured out, so it should be pretty easy. So what I'll need to do now that we've got basically our nice blank template going on in here, I need to order hoses still. We need to get set up the brake booster and master cylinder that I've had on the shelf now for quite some time. So these are gonna fix the issue that I was running into before. Well, not really an issue, but it's gonna upgrade the brakes. Since we stepped up to the Cobra calipers, the like the 03 Mach 1 calipers in the front, and then standard GT calipers in the rear, I want to make sure that master cylinder and brake booster have enough oomph, and we're going to be going to the Cobra, the 93 Cobra booster, which is going to unfortunately require us to bash in that firewall a little bit, as well as I picked up an 84 SVO master cylinder, which should have a bigger bore, so it actually should be less effort on the brake pedal, to the best of my knowledge. So it should be pretty good. The only other thing that I think I'm going to have to order is there's a Maximum Motorsports proportioning valve gut kit, and I believe I have to order that, and then I think we'll be in really good shape. So we're gonna call it there for today, though. We got a bunch of stuff done today. I mean, we pulled a motor and a trans, which was huge. We got a lot more of the stuff painted and cleaned up, so we're in good shape. So we are back out in the garage tonight because I am ready to put this motor back into this car. We've been wrapping up a couple of little things like the brakes, which I should have a separate video on. We also did the bump steer kit, that nice UPR stuff, as well as we got a couple other things finalized. So I did have to go with the Maximum Motorsports steering linkage, so that's already all bolted up and good to go. We upgraded the brakes, threw a little bit of paint on there, probably need to clean that up a little bit, as well as we've been planning out our electrical system. So I'm going to do a couple of big upgrades to the Foxbody. We went with the later model 3G alternator. I did have to open up the hole on the alternator itself to accept the 1/2-inch bolt, but that's pretty straightforward and easy to do, so went ahead and got that all situated and set up. So we'll be good to go there. We'll also be using the later model starter, which I have over there just sitting on the bench for right now. So we are going to end up getting rid of this solenoid. Instead, I am going to go to just, if it's going to pop out, I'm just going to go to a simple bus bar, just like this right here. So that's going to mount in place right there. It's going to be a little bit more robust. Basically, it's fail-proof pretty much all the way around. So that's going to be just something I've been looking at doing, because I want this thing to be really, you know, pretty reliable without any issues. And those solenoids, from working in parts for 10 years, those fail all the time. So I want to get that thing out, get all the new stuff all wired in, but step one is put in the motor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this thing off jack stands, drop down the front end, get this thing up on the cherry picker, and we're going to put a motor in tonight. All right, let's get started. Okay, well, we've got everything pretty much done on here. I do need to throw the motor mounts back on real quick, and then we'll be good to slam this in the car. So got her on the lift, and let's get on it.
Till I get up, time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. Finding life along the way, melodies we haven't played. No, I don't want no rest. Echoing around these walls, fighting to create a song. I don't wanna miss a beat. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. And we'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands.
Well, there she is. She is in. We went ahead and got the motor mount bolts all tightened up right there. I had to clean up a couple things and some stuff like that. But last thing tonight, we're gonna put that intake on, and we're gonna assess if the hood's gonna clear or not. Let's give her a shot. Well, and just like that, she is in. And man, does that thing look good in there. I am a bit concerned, typically from about that angle right there. So there is a little bit of a rake in the hood, right in the center area. So I think that we're gonna be real close right here. So, but not a big deal, because we do have a 1-inch spacer in there right now. We could always neck that down to a 1/2-inch spacer. They're only like 40 bucks. Really not too bad. I did go ahead and take the time to transfer over all my fun stuff like the EGR. This is actually these are both 75mm BBK units. So I did have to get studs on there. If you end up doing a GT40 like this and you need the studs, just order the stud kit with the gaskets. It's much cheaper. But went ahead and got that all bolted on, at least for right now. So this intake will probably come off. We do need to do the wiring underneath and the plumbing for the coolant lines. But with that being said, I mean, it's looking pretty good. So we need to build up the trans still and then the exhaust, but it'll be pretty good. I do have a little bit of a concern to see if this motor needs to come over slightly. I'm not entirely sure on the alignment process of this, beyond just kind of loosely doing it and then kind of maybe getting like a chain or something and yoinking it over. But that is something I do need to verify, which thankfully pretty straightforward and easy, not really too big of a deal. So overall, I think we're in really good shape. What is going on today, guys? All right, so it's been a little bit since we've been out in the garage and we've been filming. However, we've been getting a bunch of stuff done. So let's take a look real quick. So here is the motor, how it is today. So we got a lot of stuff completed, wrapped up. I'm waiting on a boot to be able to put this back in the fender where it belongs. But we've got a lot of stuff done. So we've got pretty much all the top end done. We upgraded to the 3G alternator there, which is kind of cool. There's a couple of good write-ups for this online, but it's pretty straightforward and simple to do. So we did upgrade that, and we got all the wiring done today. I don't know if you can see really in there, but I've got a little circuit breaker that allows, it's 150 amp, the alternator is 130 amp, and then that runs all the way underneath to my second biggest upgrade, which is this bus bar. So let's see, right there. That bus bar. So instead of having a fender mounted solenoid right here, we went with the bus bar to make it a lot cleaner as well as a lot more reliable, because now the starter solenoid's actually on the starter. We upgraded to the later model, I think it's like 92, 93 model year starter, which ran through 95, I think technically like 96, 97 in the trucks. But basically that cleans up any issues that you would potentially have with that starter solenoid on the fender itself. So that was a good upgrade. Additionally, we got just got done putting all the plugs and wires in. We've got this started right here. This is going to be the new air box. So I did end up needing to buy a new mass airflow because the one I ordered was incorrect. This is the one we went with, 8004. So this is calibrated for 76 millimeter throttle body, for 86 to 93, and 24-pound injectors, which, doing some funny math on this, I did end up going with 24-pound injectors, and those are already all installed, so that should be what we needed to do. So, specifically with the GT40 intake, there's two things, though, that you gotta watch out for. So you need to take care of this sensor. So this is like an air charge sensor. On the factory motors, it's on the intake, just plumb directly in there. We were able to relocate that out here, no issues. I just used some simple wiring to extend that right there. As well as I had went with the standard GT throttle, or standard GT coolant loop down here, and it comes with a little nipple right here. However, the GT40 does not have the boss in the back. So I ended up going with a 5/8 to 5/8 to quarter T that you can get at Napa, and I just went ahead and integrated that right in the coolant hose and got that all taken care of right there. So the whole coolant loop is done at this point in time. So that's been the majority of the stuff. Cleaned up, removed some of the thermoactor pieces that we don't need, readjusted the caster camber plates, ordered this absolutely slick Stedia 2-point cross member reinforcement bar, and I just love the look of that. It is super nice. This car had like really jank 94 to 98 style bar in it, and it was super hacked up. This looks significantly better pretty much all the way around, so I'm very, very happy with how this turned out. And of course, we got done with the full brake upgrade, which is just huge over there. But then we also got some new negative posts. I got these really nice terminals online. So really, I mean, we've cleaned up a lot of the wiring over here and got it all much better. So I still need to take care of this rat's nest right here, but that's going to probably be a later on. At some point, somebody hacked into this harness, and I have no idea what they were attempting to do, but I don't really care. So thankfully, I just kind of wanted to check in, because now what we need to do is we need to install the A9L computer. I ended up with two of them, oddly enough. We had a good buddy of ours named John, shout out to John, blast in a couple of the updated capacitors so we won't have the electrolyte leaking issue, which plagued a lot of these cars back in the day. Long story short, Ford used small capacitors that were filled with an electrolytic fluid, let's say, and over time the capacitors would rust or heat up, basically cause a split that would go down to the board. It would junk the entire board. So I ended up with a known good 90 computer, and then I ended up with a looked like a remanufactured unit from LMR, but I found it just locally on Facebook. So I ended up with both of them. We put capacitors in both, so we have two computers for this, because I'm gonna probably just stick with the stock fuel management with this, at least until I can. So, but as a component of that, this car being an 86, this is going to be 86 to 88, or speed density, we're going to convert it to mass air. So I got this cool kit, and here's all the harnessing. Here it is right here. It is Pro M, is the manufacturer of this. So I'm actually going to convert the car to mass air on there, which is just going to require me running these wires into the cab, into the connector. I think you have to repin like 6 total wires, splice in 2 wires, and then that's pretty much it. So I'm gonna finish that conversion on this, and then from there, oh, I did also get the headers in as a side note, but from there I only need to put the exhaust on and this thing's ready to fire up. We might end up dropping down the fuel tank. I was having some fuel starvation issues. I think it's more related to the sock not being, I think the sock fell off, but we can double check on that. And yeah, we'll be able to fire it up and start driving it. So I'm gonna get to working on this conversion harness, and we'll go from there. Okay, so coming down to the passenger firewall, we went ahead and pulled out the ECU right there, because that's going to get changed out. I had to pull this one out too. We did swap in the 87 and 93 dash, so this might be a little bit different there, just because this is going to be kind of different. But so here's the harness connector right here. All I did was I just removed there's an ECU retaining bracket right here. I just removed that one, removed this, and I was able to slide it out. I had to pry this off of the end right here. It's just a little wire keeper, a little wire tuck piece. And then right here I have this little grabber unit going up, hopefully, to the firewall. So one thing I did notice, what I had to do on this unit, so here is the wiring right here. I just took some Tesla tape and just went every like 6 inches or so. So here's the main ECU connector, pass through right here. So I went ahead and I had to drill out a little hole right there and use a little bit of WD-40 to get the wires to pass through. And then I went back and just created a whip just like this, where again every 6 inches or so I should be able to do that. So I'm gonna feed that down. It's not looking, I'm not seeing my little connector piece that I want to, my little grabber, but I'm gonna end up feeding this down right through this hole, and it should pop out somewhere down there. Okay, so we just got done swapping over everything. So you have to pin 2 wires. You have to pin the blue and the tan one, and then you've got to splice in the red and the black. You also have to move 2 other wires, so it's all pretty straightforward. You just pry this little red piece out right here. There's some tabs in there that you just go in with like a pick, slide those ones out. This Pro M kit right there comes with everything that you need to be able to do this. The only thing I added was some splice connectors to be able to make this work. So now that I have this all in, and I've got this harness, I'm just going to tuck it out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and put put the new ECU into make the connection, and then slide her in, and yeah, we'll be done with the mass airflow conversion. Overall, this took like maybe 20 minutes. It's really not bad at all to do. All right, guys, so we got everything buttoned back up. New computer is in. Mass airflow sensor is on. Everything is kind of all wrapped up, at least for right now. I think we're going to try a test fire. So we got oil in the motor. I've got the timing kind of set where it probably should be. Filled up the coolant. That's going to need to burp. Might get a little bit of power steering squeal, because we did also change the pump on that and bled it and all this stuff, and it's leaking still. But it is what it is. I'm going to get in, and we're going to try to fire this thing for the first time in 5 months. Let's see what happens. No mufflers. Well, there you have it. This thing sounds absolutely mean. So I'm going to wait for it to be daylight out before I dial in the timing on everything on this. And then also I need to get the exhaust back on so I don't irritate all my neighbors super badly. But so far, honestly, fantastic. So we'll keep going on this, and I'll catch you guys next time.